Today we're tackling the 3-inch downpipe on an OBS 7.3. I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes here for you real quick, then you can watch the video if you like. So do not believe the hype. This is not complicated at all. Literally took me less than an hour. I've never done this before, and I was fearful of doing it from all the frustration I saw online. So very quickly, the directions are actually pretty accurate. From underneath, first thing you're going to do is cut this heat shield off of your old downpipe. There's 4 clamps to hold this on. Cut those, and this will slide right out and get rid of it. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut your factory downpipe in half right above the bell housing. Watch the video, you'll see where we're cutting. One cut is all you're doing. One piece will come out through the bottom, one piece will come out through the top. That didn't take long at all, 5 minutes. From up top, you want to take off your cover on your engine if you have it. This will give you the room to get a pry bar and a sledgehammer in there to bend a seam that I'm going to show you in the video. On that seam, you're going to see the heat shield on the truck wraps up around a seam. I went ahead and cut that little tiny strip of heat shield off, and then I made 2 incisions on that seam, and then from up top, bent the seam back towards the back of the vehicle. From there, the next biggest key here, the new downpipe has to get put in from the bottom up. It will not fit from the top down. You're still going to hit the transmission. From the bottom up, again, I go over exactly how I fed that up through there in the video. The only tools you need, some kind of cutters for the band clamps on the heat shield, an 11mm and a 13mm deep socket. This is going to be for your cover and one for your band clamp on the turbo downpipe. A sledgehammer and a nice long impact pry bar. And you will need a reciprocating saw. And I would get one with like a 12-inch blade, 10 to 12-inch blade that we can reach up in there. That's the only tools required. Again, this whole thing took less than an hour. So watch the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do that now. And if you find this helpful at all, hit me with a like. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching. So today we're covering what some would argue is the most feared 7.3 upgrade. We're going to be replacing our downpipe, and I'm also going to be doing my exhaust as well. So to start this off, we are going to have to cut the downpipe in half, and I'm going to show you underneath where we're going to do that from. So we will be using a reciprocating saw. Get yourself a nice long blade. It'll help you reach up in there a little higher. And here you can see that sandwiched downpipe where it goes up between the transmission and the cab. We're going to cut it up there by the bell housing. Now before we do this, make sure you do have a pair of goggles on so dust and dirt and metal flakes aren't coming down on you. And we are going to cut these bands on this heat shield and pull this heat shield out first. So there we have the heat shield off. That pulls right out as soon as you cut those 4 bands. If you don't take that off first, your blade might just sit there slipping and sliding on the heat shield and not dig into the metal. So now we're ready to cut the down tube. Okay, you can see where I cut it right there, and this bottom section is going to come right out nice and easy. So there's the first half. Now we got to go top side for the other half. Go ahead and undo your band clamp there with an 11mm deep socket, and make sure you save that. You will be reusing that. Okay, we have our clamp off. This should hopefully pull right out. And it does, just like that. Well, and right there it is. Not near as hard as what some people made it out to be, and that's one cut, and you see where I cut it. Some genius thought this was a good idea. I believe they refer to this as the Cobra. This is going to open this truck up nice. This engine is going to breathe so much easier. Let's continue on. Okay, right here you see where it doesn't have enough clearance. Under this heat shield goes around about a 1-inch seam that sticks down. We're going to bend that seam. I don't like to cut it like a lot of people do because I don't want to expose the metal to rust. So we're just going to bend that in by reaching down top and with a hammer and a long extension pry bar, any means you have of bending that seam just in this area. You can cut it out if you like to, that's an option. So right here's where I have my long pry bar on that seam, and I'm going to bend it down. If you have this cover on your truck, it does help to remove this. It'll give you more room to get a pry bar down in there a little easier. So go ahead and pop off those 3 screws and pop this out of the way. So here you can see where that heat shield wraps up around that seam I was talking about. It's got a couple pop rivets that hold it on. I broke those rivets and I pushed the heat shield back behind that seam so we have better access to it. And you can see what I'm referring to a little better too, of what we need to bend back to clear for the down tube. Okay, so here's where we're at. In that seam, I made 2 incisions this way, and then I was able to bend that section back. Okay, so I made 2 incisions in that seam, and then I was able to bend it down. Then, when you go to put this on, you still aren't going to be able to fit this in from up top. It has to go in from below. So I put it in like this here, with the flange facing the firewall, fed it up through, and then rotated it around. And then it'll fit right in there. So that's how you'll put on the first section to the turbo. So now before you put on the second half, you're going to want to get this buttoned up top here. So we're going to go ahead and put that clamp on. Okay, we have that clamp snug down. Don't tighten that all the way yet. We're still going to need to be able to move that pipe forward and backward while we line up the bottom half. So just snug that down for now. Now we're going to head down below and get the bottom half on. Okay, so I slid that over top of these cross members down here. Wiggled it around and it slid right in, and you'll get a couple inch overlap easily, at least 3-4 inch overlap. So now go ahead and line up your flange with the rest of your exhaust system. Go top side, tighten down that turbo band clamp, and you're done. That's all there is to this. Just wanted to give you a quick view of the finished product. It's really hard to tell on the camera, I think, but if you look in there, you have plenty of room all the way around that pipe. It's not up against the body, it's not up against the transmission, and once everything's tightened down, it's not going to move and vibrate into those. If you are doing your entire exhaust system, which you may be, one thing I wanted to point out was, right here at this first joint, you have a hanger bracket that I ended up removing because the exhaust needs to go a little bit higher to clear everything, so I took that off, and you have plenty of other hangers in that down through the system, so you don't need it. I'm going to show you what that looks like. This bracket here, the hanger bracket's what I took off. It's just two bolts right on the back side of the frame here, so not a big deal. And one last tip, if you're new to working with exhaust or anything, whenever you're working with exhaust, you want to use a copper-based anti-seize. You do not want to use regular anti-seize. Anything with exhaust manifolds, exhaust piping, anything that gets super hot like that, use copper. That will prevent them from seizing in the future. EGR tubes, all that sort of thing. And last but not least, when you're putting your exhaust together, make sure your clamps are over the slots that are cut into the pipe. That's where you want to crimp down your clamps at to get a good strong hold on the exhaust, not back here where the slots aren't at. So that'll finish up this video, and I hope that helped you out. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do that now. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching.